This is a little bit of a different video than we usually do. Last week, we had our monthly live stream for our Patreon members. We've been doing it a little differently since COVID started. We've just been doing it on Zoom, and we've opened it up to everybody, basically. Anyone who's on our Patreon can come into these Zooms, and it's more of a Q&A than what we used to do, which is more like us singing songs and talking about what we were working on. And one of the really cool things about the last year is in our Discord server, which you can get on the Patreon, or in these Zooms, we've had to answer a lot of questions that honestly have really made us think about why we make our music, how we make our music, just through talking about it. And there's a part of this conversation that really blew my mind where we started talking about the influence of some comedy songs we listened to when we were really little kids. And they were all in these tapes made by a guy named Dr. Demento, who was a radio DJ in Los Angeles. And basically, like, as we talked more and more about these different songs we heard on these Dr. Demento tapes that have really influenced our writing a lot, we basically started remembering like how we got into Dr. Demento, which was like something I'd like truly forgotten about. It was like a truly recovered memory for me that came back because of this Patreon Zoom. So I just wanted to share, like, first the part where we're talking about all these great Dr. Demento songs that you may or may not know about that have like influenced our writing, but also so you can hear about how we got into Dr. Demento at all, which is like a very, very, very lucky thing that I haven't thought about in a long time, but very well might have changed the course of our life in terms of helping us become comedy writers. I hope you enjoyed this. I don't know if we're ever gonna post something like this again from our Patreon, but I just thought this was so cool. I wanted to post it. If you like this, think about signing up for our Patreon, because you don't just get this, you get all of our music, you get our instrumental tracks, and pretty soon, when we hit 500 members, we're gonna be forced to release an album of a lot of our biggest hits that have never been released before. So if we get a surge of people, we're gonna have to put up that album.
You know, speaking of this, I've always wanted to know, you might not remember this, but whose idea was it to purposely not say the F word the first time on Chicken Attack and then shock us all with it the second time? That's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Go way out if your way to not say it the first time in a funny way. And then I really don't expect it the second time. It's just like, it's one of those shocking things, just suddenly he just says it.
Because at that point, the unsurprising thing would be to not say it again, I guess. So we were like, okay, so this time we have to say it.
Yeah, that's the whole physics of the joke, is that, you know, the first time it's like a misdirect chicken pun away from, you like hear the rhyme coming, so it's a misdirect that's like funny on its own merits. But then you could just repeat that, or okay, now there's a new surprise by going back to the bad word.
It's also funny to me, like the flaccid language of forced to give up is like, that's just something you would never say, but it also it makes sense. It's not that it doesn't make sense, but I would never say it in my life. You're forced to give up.
To me, it's kind of like, it's like if you're playing paper, rock, scissors with someone that you play paper, rock, scissors with a lot, and like you're about to throw for, you know, like who gets shotgun or something like that, and you tell the person like, I'm going to throw rock. 100% I'm going to throw rock. And then you throw paper. You were lying. And then the next time you're playing for something important, and it's probably more important, like it's the last slice of pizza you just got home, the stakes are higher. You tell them, I'm 100% going to throw rock. And you do. You do exactly what you say you're going to do, and you crush their
misdirect.
You crush their scissors, the double misdirect, and you get the last slice of pizza. Who cares that you had to sit in the backseat of the car on the way home?
I gotta wonder, did your dad ever see Chicken Attack? I wonder if it got his hopes up. It's gonna be clean comedy. Forced to give up.
Yeah,
and then he thinks he has the constructs of this world, and then rules of this world violated.
Our poor dad's smashing his laptop.
Oh, that's really funny.
I think in the first draft, I think it just immediately went to fucked, like the first time. And I think it was refined to be like, this would be more funny if there's an old song that does exactly this, but it never says the bad word. And I remember it from those Dr. Demento tapes, which is how we listened to Weird Al, like way back in the day.
Do you guys know
it's a song
Dr.
called
Demento
Shaving Cream.
Yeah, raise your hand if you've heard of Dr. Demento.
Have you heard of the song Shaving Cream? So
this is on a Dr. Demento mixtape of just songs from the 40s that we used to listen to.
And Dr. Demento was a radio DJ in Los Angeles who would play funny music. I think he had a show once a week. And basically Weird Al had his break by like mailing Dr. Demento just tapes he made at home. And Dr. Demento was like these are funny. I'm going to put these on the radio. And Weird Al broke out. But before that,
Really?
Dr. Demento was just like, here's a weird comedy song from the 30s by Spike Jones. Here's a weird comedy song from the 60s by Jim Backus. He's like a guy who just like would laugh for 5 minutes. And it's pretty funny to listen to because you can't help but start laughing. Anyway.
I've heard that song. I like
So you want to talk about, I'll send it back to you, Michael, for shaming.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's now that we live in the age of 15 years past YouTube, I'm sure the song is on YouTube and you can just hear it, but they would always just have verses like I went out on a date one day, but when I went to sit right there on my seat, it was a big pile of shaving cream. The chorus is all shaving cream. And it sounds like an ad for shaving cream.
Guys, 999,000 views. We can push this over.
Let's get it to 1 million.
It's our responsibility to get it to 1 million today. I'm throwing it in the chat.
Wait, what are we talking? Are we talking about Chicken Attack or are we talking about shaving cream?
Talking about shaving cream by Benny Bell.
I'm gonna go get
this. Benny Bell.
We're 300 views away, guys. Let's break it. It's just like what the very first verse. I think I can remember by heart still.
I
have a sad story to tell you. It may hurt your feelings a bit. Last night I walked into the bathroom and I stepped in a big pile of shame. Be nice and clean.
Shave every day and you'll always look clean.
Oh, that was Keen. That's how I learned the word keen. Like,
yeah, keen. You're right.
So that is kind of like, I think that is an inspiration for like generations of musicians that go for the comedy. Correct. Especially because you have the really nice, this is kind of there with Fucked and Forced to Give Up, but with Shaving Cream, you have this big consonant to build up to the wrong vowel. It's very sad.
Yeah, it wouldn't work as well.
The wrong vowel.
Forced.
I wonder if when he performed it live, like he must have performed this live, right? Like on the vaudeville circuit. If he would just drop his shit in every once in a while, the crowd would just he'd be like,
"It's not broadcast now, boys."
In a big pile of shit, and then just like the song is over, and the crowd goes wild.
You know, yeah, I heard a song like that.
Shit! It was the double misdirect.
The aristocrats.
I want to just take this on a 2-minute sidebar. Because this is making me think of how much we used to listen to these Dr. Demento mixtapes when we were like on family road trips and how that influenced our musical career later. And there's one other Dr. Demento song that's really coming to mind that is like a major inside joke for us, but it's just been around for so long that we don't think of it as an inside joke. And that is our tendency in personal conversation between me and Andrew and Michael. If somebody asks us, or if we ask each other, like, you want to order pizza or whatever, to answer in the affirmative, we often say to each other, yeah, which is the triple yeah.
I just played the song for Casey like a week ago, and I was like, I don't know why I even thought of it, and then I was like, this is why me and Evan and Michael say that thing.
Yeah, but we've done it for so long that you forgot what the original reason was. Just one of those inside jokes that just like, gets fully ingrained. So this is off of the Dr. Demento mixtape that was maybe from the 80s or so. That we would buy these things at like gas stations that were like, this is the decade of 40s, this 60s, 70s, 80s, and the shaving cream one is super old. But I think this is from the 80s. Anyway, the name of the song is I Don't Wanna Do That.
And this also has a comedy formula that we've used a lot, and is a lot of people use. It's a comedy formula as old as time.
Yeah, and I cannot remember what this like group was called that like I'm sure never got their big break, but they have this really funny upper Midwest accent, and the song basically goes in this formula, which is like, do you wanna buy some luggage? No, I don't wanna do that. Do you wanna vacuum the car? No, I don't want to do that.
Do you want to watch soccer?
No, I don't want to do that. Do you want to do some schnapps with? Do you want to do a shot with me? Yeah. And then it goes into like a giant polka.
It has a lot of very 80s attitudes about like what a man would like in the 80s, that they're like, soccer, no way.
Yeah.
You're like, I think in the 2020 version, they don't want to watch soccer.
Yeah, it's like big boomer humor for sure.
Yeah.
Totally.
But just like he did with the Trump song, and he asked him about the different thing. Well, at one point he pulls out a tuba.
Yeah, exactly. This is the kind of thing that, and when we do this stuff, it's not like we're thinking like, let's do the shaving cream or let's do the yeah.
Right.
But it is like list jokes, like winning. It's like
Yeah.
this, winning, this, winning. And then we finally say weak when he says breaking the Geneva Convention. Weak.
Right.
And then the question is always whether we're going to say like the Tinky Winky. You think we're going to say like weak, but it's a misdirect to like by winning or whatever. I can't remember if he's in that song.
Yeah.
If I remember,
The other one is,
only reason we weren't cool enough we didn't grow up in LA where like you could have turned on the radio and listened to Dr. Demento. Like we were growing up just before the internet, basically. I think the only reason we found out about Dr. Demento was we were on and we didn't have cable. Our parents were like, we don't have cable. Cable sucks. So, but we were on a road trip and we turned on the TV in the hotel, which was always exciting because like, oh my gosh, Comedy Central, they have got all these channels that we don't have. And there was a special on honoring Dr. Demento. And like all these people were coming on and playing their songs. Like, I think the guy, like I think Benny who did Shaving Cream was like an 80-year-old man. I think we watched him do Shaving Cream. This is probably in like 1990 when he's like 80. And we're like, this is the funniest song ever. Like all these different people came in and did their songs.
I'm sure Weird Al would have been there.
Yeah, Weird Al was probably there. And we bought, but none of us had ever heard of Weird Al. But our dad, who like was very supportive of our new obsession with Dr. Demento, I don't know if we had buy him in the mail or whatever, but bought us all these compilation tapes of Dr. Demento. We had one for every decade. A song that really sticks out in my mind is there was one that was supposedly a comedy song, but to me was so sad. And I got obsessed with it. And I would just listen to it all the time as a 10-year-old, just being like, this is the most beautiful, sad song ever. And it was based, I guess, like it was supposedly a comedy song because it was based on The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But it was a very sad scenario from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where one of the characters builds himself a robot just so the robot will love him. Do you remember this, Evan? Yes. And then it gets to the chorus and the robot is expressing his love to Marvin and just going, Marvin, I love you. Marvin, I love you. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. This is like a really beautiful chorus, but it's like so sad.
I'm not positive about this, but I believe, around this same time, a youngster, like you read all the books in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series.
They're funny as hell.
And so I think I'm right that song "Marvin, I Love You" is somehow a part of that universe. I don't know if there was like a radio or television spin-off of the books or version of the book, but I think that song is either about the character of Marvin the Paranoid Android,
yes,
from the Hitchhiker's book, but I don't remember how they fit the universes together. But
is that where Marvin comes from?
It is the paranoid. It is about the paranoid android Marvin.
It's just a template for YouTubers making songs about Among Us. Sad songs about people betraying you.
But just like, why is this a comedy song? A song about a guy who had to build a robot to love him? That's sad.
I think Dr. Demento was at Weird Al's Hollywood Star, like inauguration or whatever, pretty recently, the last couple of years.
I think you're right.
I remember like before the internet though, like the mixtape was like your early internet in a way for music, I'd record stuff off the radio or record stuff like music other people had, get it on the old cassette tape. I remember that.
Yeah, the bootlegging. Everybody's like granddad or great uncle would be like tech savant. They'd be like, I made a library of classic films on my VHS tapes.
Yeah.
Our great uncle Peter did that, where we would like go stay at his house. And he's like, you want to watch any movie in the world? Guess what? I taped them all. And it was like,
they have commercials in them?
Did he like cut out the commercials somehow, or did he just have the commercials in? I don't remember.
Guys, I think I found the exact special we watched. Yeah. Oh my God. Here he is.
It's pretty impressive though, really, when you think about it.
Here is. Look at this. Oh my gosh. I got to share my screen.
I know Uncle Peter would be on Pirate Bay now.
This is like,
guys, I got every movie.
This is truly like exactly what I remember. Like this is the shaving cream guy.
Wow.
Look at him. He's like a 90-year-old man. And it's like This aired in the summer of 1991. So sure enough, I would have been like a 9-year-old child on a road trip. It's on Comedy Central, so we only saw it because we were staying in a hotel. And it's like,
There's no cable.
yeah.
Yeah, wow, the fates aligned.
But this is the special. But you're right, Michael, that Weird Al does a ton of songs, like 5 or 6 songs, but there's a ton of other people like Tiny Tim and other people. And but this was his 20th anniversary, so he didn't start a show till 1971.
And you got to think about like the FCC's position there. You got 90-year-old Benny Bell, like probably like not at the top of his mental game, singing a song that is explicitly about pretending like you're about to say shit, and then
he's literally holding the words. He's holding the words because he's
so
like, I'm an old ass.
Very high likelihood he's gonna say shit on that broadcast. That's like really exciting entertainment to just see if it happens and the program.
Finger on the button.
Yeah,
ready to
Bird up.
I feel like Benny also has like a major. We had a relative that I'm going to take a brief tangent here. He's one of those relatives that you don't understand how you're related to him. Just like on our mom's side, we have your Uncle Jimmy Puller. Everyone's always talking about our Uncle Jimmy Puller. We don't really understand how we were related to our Uncle Jimmy Puller, but Uncle Jimmy Puller exists. On our dad's side, there was a guy who would show up to family reunions who was named Pretty John. Everyone called him Pretty John, apparently because he was so good looking when he was young and such a flirt still. But he had this motto, which was, I'm over 80. And his opinion was that now that he was over 80, he could do anything and no one would stop him. And he was like, I've tested this. He's like, I go into the grocery store, I just start eating stuff. Like, the chef, tell me I can't eat something. I just say, I'm over 80. They walk away. I kiss a guy's wife. He say, hey, you kissed my wife. I say, I'm over 80. And I feel like Benny here is displaying like some major over 80 energy in that, like, if he says shit instead of shaving cream on the Comedy Central broadcast, like, he's not going to have to pay the FCC fine and everyone's going to love it. He has a major over 80 vibe. Either Dr. Demento or Comedy Central is going to pick up the tab here.
Definitely.
That's true. Major.
How's it going? We're talking about we're talking about the seminal comedy DJ Dr. Demento and how maybe you heard this because I know you were on for a while before you started up here.
Yeah.
But how we've just located the 1991 special that made us find out about Dr. Demento while we were on a road trip staying in a hotel because we didn't have cable.
And it's caused us to really delve into the influence that Dr. Demento had on the Gregor brothers' literary oeuvre.
Yeah.
Well, it sounded like that theory about the over 80 thing where they just do what they want. I think that's a sound theory.
Yeah. It's like it shouldn't work. A person who's over 80 shouldn't be allowed to do whatever they want, but it's like, are you going to be the one to tell them that?